There's a number. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. This is Ross of Roleplaying Public Radio, and we're here at Gen Con 2016 at our Patreon for Creators panel. We have a lot of nice swag from Patreon: refrigerator magnets, pins, and sunglasses. The picnic blankets.
They went fast.
They went fast. Because Patreon is a very nice thing.
And for posterity's sake, for the people listening after the con, do you want to give our names really quick, just so they know who we are?
Please introduce yourself.
All right, I'm Fost. My show is Thrilling Intent. There's a guy in the audience right there, that guy, Jay. He is the GM and editor for it. Thrilling Intent is a fantasy tabletop YouTube series that is partially animated, and that's my thing. And you, to my left.
Yes, hi, I'm Matt Campen. I run The Drunk and the Ugly. It is a once-weekly actual play podcast. You can find it on Google Play Store and the iTunes Store. I also run, we also on all the social medias at The Drunk and Ugly. We're on Tumblr at, I can't remember what a Tumblr is. That's great there.
Drunkandugly.tumblr.
And there was one you mentioned I was really interested in.
We also have, yes.
Grindr.
Yes, we're also on Grindr. No, we're not. Look for us. We're in the hidden Grindr.
No, we're on
Dark
Friendster.
Yeah, but I also run a show with one of the people from The Drunk and the Ugly. It's called Ugly Talk. That's on Libsyn. You can also find that on iTunes. You can't find it on Google Play because Libsyn and Google Play aren't getting along really well. But that is a once monthly discussion, panel discussion show where we bring on a guest and we talk about integrating role playing games with other kinds of media. So how do you translate video games to role playing games? How do you translate movies to role playing games? How do you translate the themes of J.J. Abrams remaking Star Wars to how you're going to remake Star Wars?
Nice.
All right. So we're here to talk about Patreon because three of us had experience with Patreon. We either have current ones or have had ones in the past. And so we can give you some advice on what Patreon is, how to use it, and what it's not for, and what it is for.
It's not for smuggling money. I can
yes.
say that from experience.
And also how not to use it.
I kind of want to hear more about that.
I can't say more. Sorry.
Patreon overall is a crowdfunding website, and crowdfunding is obviously just getting money directly from the people who want your stuff. There's no like Kickstarter, but unlike Kickstarter, Patreon is set up to be for ongoing projects. So the base system uses creator set up an account, and they either set up some sort of increment per funding.
Week, per month, per piece of content released.
Yeah.
It allows the creator to set whenever they think that their donors should be charged. And I think there are some better ones out there, and we'll probably get into that later. But
yeah.
Patreon was just sort of the first sort of ongoing crowdfunding effort.
What's the first serious one? I mean,
it's the first one that caught on.
Yeah, the first one that caught on.
It's the Kickstarter of ongoing crowdfunding.
Yeah. And so it's, if you're doing a Kickstarter for a concrete one-off thing, like a book or a movie, that makes more sense. But a lot of creative people have ongoing projects, whether that's we all do podcasts or similar kind of things.
Serial programs.
Yeah, serial programming. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Or if you have a webcomic, or if you want to do tutorials, or a series.
I've seen some people just do for art, even if it isn't a continuing series. It's just help me make more art.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the main reason why people will back a Patreon, there are actually two major reasons. One, the more practical one, is that Patreon allows you to set up essentially a paywall system where you release content, digital content, through Patreon that a person has to pay a certain level in order to access through their app or download or something like that. So for example, RPPR creates bonus podcasts that you can only download through the Patreon site if you contribute at least $2 a month for. And that's the one way. But the main way, the way that Patreon started was just as a way for people to show their support for an ongoing thing. It was patronage. That's what it is.
It's a new viable source of income for creators.
Yeah.
And it's made making a living as a creator much more easy. You don't have to rely on freelance work, or you don't have to sign with a bigger company while doing your thing on the side.
Or you don't have to put a donation button and hope somebody clicks it.
Exactly. Please send me
it's a
money
better
on
way to
PayPal.
set up donations. But there are people, I support 15 or 16 people on Patreon, And there's some that I don't get anything from in particular. I just support what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like one I do is actually going to be a very useful tool for all of you who use it is Graphitron, which tracks and measures Patreon, like users, like how much money is being made on Patreon right now, who are the most popular creators on Patreon, who's been going up, who's been going down. So it's kind of like Kick Track, if you've heard of that for Kickstarter, but for Patreon. So you can see that. So I just support them because I want...
It's a useful tool.
It's a useful tool. You can see, you can even filter out the not safe for work one, so you can see who's making the most money outside of the porn guys.
Which is funny because if you read Patreon's terms of service, they actually say that you're not allowed to create porn Patreons.
Yeah, but then they're kind of like, well, it's called erotic art. It's not porn.
It's more a CYA part of the contract.
Yeah. Well, because payment processors really don't like it. PayPal doesn't like it in particular. So Patreon makes their money by taking a cut out of your work, and then credit card processors take a cut out of your work.
Yeah, it's like 15%.
Yeah, well, 10 to 15%. I think it varies. And one thing to also keep in mind that Patreon is a new service, so they're constantly kind of changing and revising the service. So it used to be like they would show the gross amount of work that you'd be making, but now they've changed it to the net. So like, if you're in the old system, if it said you made $2,000 a month, that's before they take their cut.
Yeah.
If you see that $2,000 a month, that's after Patreon and everyone else gets their cut. That's actually what their creator is receiving. So I guess we could just go talk about our experiences overall with it. So third wheel,
our experience was we'd been asked a couple times for like a way for people to show their support, and we were just like, no, it's fine. But eventually we caved and we made one, and we're like, oh yeah, we'll set up a Patreon with maybe 2 goals: $75 milestone, $100 milestone, and we're like, we'll maybe hit the $100 milestone in 7 months. Boy howdy, what an experience that was. We did a live stream day of the Patreon going up just to promote it. I think we blew past like $700 in the first like couple hours. So we were completely taken aback by how generous everybody was. We were very thankful for it. And our Patreon experience has been a learning one, because we don't really have any background in this. We're all self-taught in our respective studies, and we've tackled mostly, I think, the presentation is something in particular that we have a pretty good handle on. The way we have our Patreon organized is you can set donation tiers that people can donate at, like $1, $5, $10, etc. And for each tier, you can add incentives, like we'll do a reading for you and send it to you, or we'll draw you some art, or we'll name a character in the show after this. And in addition to that, each tier that we have has an accompanying piece of art that is related to the name of the tier, just to sort of like be an eye catch for people. And I think that's really important, having something nice to look at on all of the tiers. Just because it adds, it can help tie together the Patreon with the like flavor and style of whatever you're trying to create. Say for like Delta Green, if they have a Patreon actually.
Dennis Detwiller does.
Dennis Detwiller
one of the
does.
Creators of Delta
But an example would be if he had different like donation tiers, he could do like different creatures from the Cthulhu mythos, just as an eye catch. That's I think been the biggest part, like presentation, figuring out how to present all of the information that we have in a way that is easy to understand and also nice to look at. Many an hour has been spent arguing about that.
That's the thing. Crowdfunding in general is very new, and Patreon is even newer. It's only been taking off in popularity in the last 2 years. So it's a brave new world. There are like people who claim to be experts are, well, they have had a whopping year experience over you. So I mean, there are generalities that you can sort of rely on in terms of like what I can do to make people want to give me money. But there's no exact science. There's no like magic formula that you have to do it in this way to succeed. There's a lot of variation in successful patrons about what they do and what they give back to the people who give them money. And some of them are like, meh, whatever, give me something and maybe I'll do something. They still get like $5,000 or $30,000 a month or something like that. And then there's people who give tons of content out and then they get very little. It's really weird, but yeah.
Ours started because we actually started our Patreon up because we wanted to get better recording equipment, because at the time everybody was just using whatever they had, and so our sound quality was incredibly variable. And so we set out and came up with a budget, figured out an affordable microphone that would work for everybody, and figured out about how much money we needed, and ours was it started as sort of like somewhere on Kickstarter, but we wanted to do it in installments instead of
one lump sum.
Yeah, instead of one lump sum, because it was gonna be. Because just doing a Kickstarter for, hey, give us better, let us get better microphones isn't gonna sell too well, because there's not a lot that's coming back. But so we kind of set it out as in donation tiers of I think it was $1, $5, $10, $20, which was $1 was hey, we'll mention you in the show, and then $5 was we'll give you a bunch of episodes that we weren't going to air. A bunch of episodes. So you get 4 extra episodes a month. They're not the best stuff, but if you really want to listen to more podcasts, there's more podcasts there.
You're not doing a great job of selling that.
Yeah, well, people liked it.
Yeah,
$10 a month, and then $10 a month was $10 a month was you can take part in a Skype game. And then I actually can't remember what $20 a month was now. So we had plenty of people actually sign up there, and we ran into similar to Faust. We ran into problems of not quite knowing exactly what we were getting into. One of the things was we wanted to have. So Patreon also, similar to Kickstarter, has stretch goals.
They call them milestones.
Yeah, they call them milestones. But the thing is that it's very specific on Patreon. We wanted to have a specific milestone that we do something when our goal of get $700 so we can buy all these new microphones got met. But you can't do that if you set up a monthly plan, because monthly plans have monthly milestones. Yeah. So for a long time we had this, we didn't quite realize that at first, so for a couple months we had this milestone of if we make $700 a month, then we'll do this. And I don't think Patreon still hasn't actually implemented a static goal system for ongoing plans, and I don't know if they're gonna, because that's a really specific thing. But so we ended up revising that and setting it to something if we have this much a month, then we'll do a live stream. If we have this much a month, then we'll start writing additional fiction that's voted on. Yeah. And it seems to be sort of the general. It seems to be sort of the general template that everybody follows. But the one thing that we didn't consider was economy of scale, because we set up a thing if you pay $10 a month, you could be part of a game that we will run once a month, and that was doable until we got up to 15 people at that level.
Yeah,
because it was just me and one other person running all of the games, and so it was that and a couple of other things that once we kind of got to our funding goal and got a little bit over it, we ended up just kind of shutting it down, because it was trying to come up with new and original games, and people backed us because people became our patrons because they liked our content, but there was still this ongoing pressure to us okay, people are paying for this game, we need to make a game that's worth paying for every single month, and that really becomes a mental strain on you.
It does. And I had not exactly the same experience, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so, you did it a lot better in that we'll put you in a queue to be in a game.
Yeah. So for the online games, that's another reward that the RPPR patron has. But I kind of anticipated that problem. So what I did was I would say for $10 a month, you have the option. I will post a time where I'm running an online game at this time. There are X number of players available. So the players who haven't played the longest time or who haven't played at all get first priority. And then it's a set time. If you don't show up, you don't show up. And I don't do anything other than that. I let them, and we changed. And I've actually now we do 3 games a month, and I farm it out to other RPPR cast members so that I'm not running games constantly. And I pay the people on RPPR to run games through the money, and so that's worked out better. That's been more sustainable because you want to give them something, but you can't. There is a thing of going too far, bending backwards too much for your patrons. Like because again, people, they give you money, but then they forget about something, or they don't do, something like that. So you have to really think about what's sustainable for you.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, there's only so much time in the day.
Yeah, there's only so much time in the day, and there's only so much you're going to get back from it. So like for RPPR, I started it in January 2015, and I thought maybe $500-$600, and then I got over 1,000, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. It was really cool, and then this year, and for the 1 year anniversary, I kind of revamped it because I redid all the rewards because I realized there were some that were easier to fulfill than others. And some of the simple things are actually really hard to fulfill, like saying a player's name or like, hey, special thanks to blah, blah, blah for supporting this.
Yeah.
But when there's 20 or 30 people, keeping track of all that, or like, do I say their name every month? So it's like 5 minutes of names at the beginning of every episode.
We got to I think we would name all the new patrons who had signed up every month, and then at the beginning of the year, we would name everybody.
Yeah. So, that's fine when you have 20 patrons, but if you have 380 something, that's a fucking long list.
That's another podcast
That's
to get started.
You basically
who's going to listen to that? Like the
basically have to add that
the
to show
podcast of
notes.
names shall be read.
They say a good actor can make a phone book reading interesting.
But
all right.
I bet
Thanks there, Foster.
Hire me out for it.
I bet people would,
Yeah.
people would listen to you do the announcer voice of every name.
God.
And actually, one thing you mentioned was paying other cast members. That was a thing that was useful for us to avoid any arguments about money. Is that we actually have a company that has its own account that all of the Patreon and Kickstarter money goes to, and that just goes to taking care of the company.
Yeah. And so, and that you should, if it's a group project, you need to, like, everyone should contribute to it. You should use that money. And that's a legitimate business expense, so you can deduct that from taxes.
Yay, taxes.
Because this is obviously taxable income. You're going to have to pay. But we'll get into this. The main thing I want to get across is, like, for the 1 year anniversary, I redid what I was doing. I created a new podcast, Wad the Heck, which was a second bonus podcast. The first year I created.
I'm on that.
Yeah, you are on that. Where we go over the old world of darkness. Foss knows nothing about it, and I try to explain it to him.
I know some things about it.
You know now some
regrettably.
things. You regret that. Yeah. Blackhand.
Oh my God.
And then I redid some of the rewards, and what I found is that there are some people, like, there's not a big difference between the $10 and the $25 reward. I've experimented with giving out physical rewards and like mailing posters to people as a one-time thing. Shipping was fine. If you're backing $25 a month, I can afford to ship you a poster. But I found out that people who back at that level, backers will have different motivations for backing. And some will back just to get the rewards that you offer. Some will back because they believe in it, but they'll only do it at a low level. And some people will be like, I really believe in this. I will back at a high level because it's not about what I get back. It's because I like what you're doing. And I really support it. So you really need to go out of you need to be able to accommodate all of these backers and realize they have different motivations for doing so. So it's about communication with that. So I think, does anybody have any questions about this stuff? Yes.
Actually, that is a question I have regarding the backers. Do you guys have any stories of, like, backers getting on your case about something that they didn't like that you did, and how did you guys handle that?
So one thing is...
do you want to repeat the question for the recording?
Oh, yeah. So do you have any... the question that was asked was, do you have any stories about backers kind of getting on your case and kind of criticizing, I guess? Or getting, and that's kind of that was another thing that happened was some of our patrons, because now they were effectively investing in the show. They wanted to have say in the show, and we had to dedicate a portion of our podcast to basically become our PR team, and now communicate with backers about their concerns about the show, and had to change our social media presence up because we were very casual before because this was a hobby and we were just doing it and people were listening to it, and now we were a thing that had effectively paying customers, and we had to be a lot more. I'm not going to say we were ever unprofessional, but we had to be way more professional than we were.
Yeah, expectations will definitely change depending on what you're doing.
We actually had to start We actually had to start doing like monthly, like meetings to talk about what we were going to do to kind of restructure the podcast, and also coordinate with people in the event that we hit our milestones, because we had milestones like we're going to post art. And so we had to have meetings where we would negotiate with. We had a lot of artists in house, and so we had to talk to them about what they were comfortable doing and what rates they were comfortable working at. And then also, since we were running games every month, we had to coordinate with who's running the game, who's doing this reward, and that kind of stuff. So it'll put in. When you get money, it becomes a job. Well, it was probably a job before,
work.
but it becomes work, but it becomes work that you're now paid for, unlike previously.
And unlike a job, this is work you structure yourself. Like,
Exactly.
you are in charge of it. You can structure it however you want. So, like, my long standing with RPPR, the reason why I've been able to do it so long, my foremost concern has always been making this sustainable. It's very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's very tempting to be like, I'm going to create this perfect thing, whether it's a picture or a podcast, a movie or whatever, and I'm going to spend all this time editing it, polishing it, making it perfect. And then you burn out, and then you think you're going to do this like one every month or whatever, and then it takes 6 months to do one thing, this one perfect thing, and then you don't want to do it anymore because you fucking hate editing or hate polishing it, and and I've seen that a lot. I mean, how many webcomics have you seen that have burned out at earlier? How many, like, I'm going to do a web series, I'm going to do this, and then it's just like,
Done.
Fuck it. So for me, it's always been about sustainable. So whenever you structure your Patreon, make sure you can sustain it for however long.
Well, it's like this line you need to tread between making it sustainable and making it worth it for the people who are donating.
Well, hopefully what is sustainable is worth it. I hope you're not just fucking, here's a sketch, give me $100.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a little better than that. But yeah, did you, I know like Patreon will, they've been working a lot lately to improve the experience for both creators and patrons. And so they will, they've added tools like a Patreon exit survey. When someone quits your Patreon, cancels their pledge, they'll ask them why. And like for me, in my experience, it's been like 90% of the time it's my financial situation has changed. You know, like I lost my job, or I have my car broke down, or something like that. I can't afford this anymore. A couple of times I've been like, I don't like what you're doing. And they don't and so for me, like, because it's 90% my financial situation has changed, I'm like, well, I guess I'm okay, so I'll just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you had any bad experiences with users?
No, we haven't had any bad experiences. We've been really lucky. Our everybody in our fan base is just really good, really amazing people.
I mean, if they go to all the effort to pledge, create an account and pledge it, usually they're pretty dedicated. They know what they want to. And now Patreon, it used to be that you could pledge and then get all the content and then cancel your pledge before the end of the month.
Upfront charging.
Yeah, but now, so that people were scamming, people like, I'll just download all this.
That
and then,
seemed to mostly be a problem for artists and people who just
like the porn artists. Yeah, I'll take all these naked pictures.
Those poor porn artists earning $30,000 a month.
And
doing what they want.
But now Patreon will charge you for the first month whenever you pledge to someone, so you can't just get a bunch of stuff and then
it's optional. You can turn on upfront charging.
Oh, really?
Leave it off. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's on by
once
default.
you turn it on, it's there. The what?
It's on by default because they charge and then it like goes into escrow.
Yeah.
For like 5 days.
Anyways, so I hope that answers your question. We haven't had it's been very positive.
So I was just curious, kind of related to that as well, but like what percentage of your actual like listening audience versus like your actual paying Patreon audience, and how do you gauge which of those audiences to cater more to, if that makes sense?
Okay. No, that's a valid question. It's hard. Oh yeah, the question has been, what is the percentage of your audience from your existing podcast to patron? What percentage of your audience are Patreon backers, essentially, right?
And which one do you cater to?
Which one do I cater to?
In our experience, we have Thrilling Intent is a YouTube series, so we have a pretty easy way to gauge how many people are watching. YouTube despite its faults, has pretty good metrics. We have about 13,000 subscribers currently, which is on the rise, and I think we have about anywhere between well, we have much less than that, much fewer people donating. Like, I want to say it's like 100 to 500 people donating, if that. And as far as which one to cater to, we might be an outlier, but I feel like, at least for us, we have a pretty specific vision of what we want to do. And while we very, very much appreciate all of the support, in my opinion, I don't speak for the other 3 guys that I work with, but the best way to cater to both sides is to stick to the vision that we have.
Yeah. That's my experience too. RPPR, podcast downloads are kind of hard to measure. I think there's between 3,000 and 5,000 constant listeners, subscribers, because that's how much each episode usually gets in the first week of downloading. We have, last time I checked, like 384 backers on Patreon, so like maybe 10% of that. And yeah, I definitely, like, there's 2 types of content we produce now. Like, one is the free stuff that everyone gets that I put on the main podcast, Role Playing Public Radio and RPPR Actual Play, and that has not changed at all in terms of like what I do, in terms of stylistically, or in content. And then there's the stuff I make exclusively for the Patreon backers, and I make it. And that's definitely different than the main content. We're more free with what we say because we know that only a certain audience is going to get it, and we can be and it's, and those 2, and that content's never going to be released to the public too. So we can say whatever we want. It's fun. So I've not changed how I do things. It's just like the Patreon stuff. I had the vision for it, and I create that, and then the main stuff I haven't changed at all, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They signed up for your stuff because of my existing work, because of the existing podcast. So like, why change that?
Yeah.
So that.
I was just agreeing. Like the people are the people are supporting you because they liked what you were making before, and so like it. Yeah, so whatever Patreon content you have, I think, like, what Ross was saying, like, he didn't change his core podcast because he effectively started a whole new set of media, and that was explicitly for his patrons.
I did make some changes to the websites though. Like RPPR now has a really big like donate to Patreon button. It's very subtle.
Buy my book.
Back my Patreon. And then like Patreon is a changing service. They're improving things rapidly, but they're not perfect. They're not 100% there.
They're trying though. They're doing good.
They're really trying. Thank you, Patreon.
They give us picnic blankets.
They give us and magnets. Oh yeah, by the way, do you want a pen or sunglasses for your? Okay.
Woo!
Sorry. I had to create a separate website, afterhours.roleplayingpublicradio.com, to create an archive of all our exclusive content that people could easily find. Because right now on Patreon, on your creator page, you just have to scroll down, which is fine in the first few months, but I've been doing this for like a year and a half now. And so if you want to get something from June 2015, you're just like spending 5 minutes just scrolling down.
Yeah, because you have the podcasts, and then you also have I'm running a game, and here's art, and here's here's this.
It doesn't organize posts.
I post
basically
about 12 to 15 things on the Patreon every month, creator posts, and so that's hundreds of posts that they have to scroll back. So I created a separate website to here's the June 2015 After Hours episode. Here's the link to download, the link right to it.
And that was similarly, Patreon's messaging service isn't the best.
Yeah.
We tried to use that to try and organize our Skype games that we were running. And the thing is, it doesn't inform you when somebody sent a message, and it doesn't inform everybody else when you've made edits to a major message. So you can't say who's in a game or the game is sold out. So we ended up having to create a separate forum just specifically for scheduling games and saying this is where content is.
So yeah, I did a lot of work to make people aware that there was a Patreon for RPPR and that there was all this cool stuff that they could get if they backed it. But I did not. So there's a lot of marketing you have to do because only really plugged in people, only really clued in people are even aware Patreon exists. There's still like 9 times out of 10 when I talk about to a normal person about Kickstarter, they're like, "What the fuck is Kickstarter?"
No,
and that's been around since 2009.
That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Well, granted, I don't live in the most civilized of areas, unfortunately. You and me both.
Yeah.
But anytime somebody asks what I do, I'm like, "Oh, it's Patreon," and they're like, "What's that?" It's like Kickstarter for ongoing projects. What's Kickstarter? And it's
What's crowdfunding?
What's crowdfunding?
Yeah.
Also, man, when it comes to tax season, just tell your tax preparer that you do crowdfunding and just kind of listen to the mournful sigh come out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely get an accountant too if you start making substantial money on Patreon.
Although one thing that's
to figure out what year's an expense, because there's a lot you can deduct.
Yeah.
Obviously.
One thing that is nice about Patreon, though, is that everything they do, all the money they give to you, the way it's processed, all technically counts as royalties.
Yeah.
So that just all goes in a specific section of your taxes.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because if you get into like sales tax, that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're state in that.
They're state in that, and also it depending on like, well, did you send them a physical thing or did you send them a podcast? Because if you send them a physical thing, it's a sale. But if you send them a podcast episode, you're technically selling a service, which has a different tax rate.
Oh. Yeah. Anyways, Laura, actually.
Do you have a minimum audience size before you'd recommend even looking into
Okay.
worth the
yeah.
marketing and all that?
Okay. The question is, do you have a minimum audience size before launching a Patreon? And I think it's kind of a cop-out, but it depends on what you're doing, because I've seen a lot of people with existing fan bases, like our podcasts, launch and then do that. But I've seen people who weren't really known before, and then what they were doing was so cool that people signed up for it. Like, for example, I forgot, and I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but there's a guy who does like a dungeon map on a 2-page spread, and he's an artist, and he does these really crazy, like, fantastical maps, and it's like, and they're system free, so you get every month you just get a map of like, here's a floating sky temple with lizard monsters in it and wyverns and blah blah
That's
blah.
awesome.
Yeah, no, I use that for the Base Raiders game.
Oh, nice.
So I showed you the picture of it.
Yeah, that was good.
It was very easy to convert because there were no sets.
I've actually got something to say on this.
Yeah.
Don't ever underestimate how many people would like to help you. That is something that we underestimated, and we're blown away. I'd say that there isn't really a minimum audience size, because it doesn't cost you anything to have the Patreon.
Yeah.
Like, it's just out there. And if you get it set up and nobody donates, it's still out there and will eventually start rolling along. So I think it's nice to have that landing page there for people, even if they aren't there when you first make it.
But if you tell people about your Patreon, and then you have on your creator page something really cool or something that they like, they'll be like, oh, well, then I'll back that just for the benefit. Because again, there's 2 main motives for people who are wanting to back you: people who want the rewards, or the people who just believe in you. And if you don't have any people who believe in you as a creator, then just show them something cool, and then they'll just buy it, back in it for that cool thing, for that awesome adventure or whatever.
I'd say if you personally believe in the work that you're doing, then there's no minimum audience.
So like, for you, I know you're like a writer, so like fiction. So if you have like, here's a really cool short story that I did, and then if you want it per short story, then you could do that. Just offer a sample one, and then like do something like that.
Just thinking about the opportunity cost of time, because
Well, that's true. It is a risk, and in terms of your time, and that's a valid thing, especially if you have a lot of other opportunities. So you could try and offset that by making a collaborative project, like get other people to work on it. But you also have a podcast too, but
Can you set a maximum number for a particular tier?
Yes. The question is, can you set a maximum number for a particular tier? And it is. You can have early bird ones or limited. Well, like, if you only want to say like a limited number. If you don't want to, here's the litany of backers who deserve all the honor. If you don't want that to be 1,000 people long.
Or if you're like mailing out physical things.
Yeah. Some people do physical rewards, and they have a thing on Patreon where you can add a shipping address to your account, so then people can get a spreadsheet of addresses. Because I've experimented with that in the past with like postcards, and
But Laura, regarding your question, I think the thing is, if you want to start it and you're not sure how many people would actually go, if it's a thing you're doing because you enjoy doing it and you think that it's worth something, then there's no real downside for you to create it if you enjoy creating it and like if it's something you were going to do anyway for free, then do it and run the risk of maybe making money.
Yeah, and the time
At
investment,
risk.
the time investment for promoting the Patreon, it can be as big or as little as you want. And if you have an audience, say if you have like a Twitter or a Tumblr or
A podcast.
a podcast or whatever else these kids are doing these days, you can just like drop a line like, "Hey, I have a Patreon now. If you'd like to support me, please do."
Yeah, because
or
you
not.
might get somebody who's just
Yeah.
like, I just like Laura as a person. I just
Yeah.
think she's great, and I'll send her $5 every month. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. So yeah, I mean, there is that's the risk. It's time wasted, which is a valid risk or a valid concern for some people. So you just have to judge that yourself. So yeah. Other questions in the back as well? Yes, you.
Yeah, for those of you who have created your own private sites, how are you checking that the person is an active subscriber, and what happens when they stop subscribing to your service? Are you doing anything to prevent them from accessing that premium content in the future?
The question is, well, actually, do you want to try and formulate?
Yeah. So the question is for people who are actively backing. How do you track who's actively backing, and what do you do to prevent them from getting premium content when they stop backing at that level?
Well, Patreon has a good paywall system. You have to be logged into your account, and you have to be an active backer. Otherwise, it says this post is locked. You can't see it. You can't download it.
Yeah. So the content hosted on Patreon is a pretty, like, Patreon has a pretty good paywall system that it's set up itself. But I think the question was something like you said you made up
your
a
own premium
yeah,
site.
you made the archival site for RPPR After Hours.
That is public because all that does is link to individual Patreon posts. So you're taken to like the June 2015 episode, but if you're not logged in and you're not an active subscriber, it says this you can't
Right.
act. Yeah, no.
You can host the audio on Patreon, right?
Yeah, it's an index site.
Yeah.
Just because Patreon doesn't have indexes, it's
Yeah.
terrible at it.
And then
it's not perfect. Yeah. Well, hopefully they've improved. I've actually had messaged them, and they're actually very responsive. They're
a small team.
Yeah, they're a small team. They're very nice too. Like
Yeah.
I just said, hey, I'm doing a panel on Patreon. Then they sent me all this stuff to give to you, because they love us all. Anyways.
And then regarding things like we had our special forum for Skype games, and that was just
Yeah.
as simple as when people signed up at that level, we just sent a message saying, like, make an account on the forum, tell me what it is, and I'll promote you to be able to see this page. And then Patreon will tell you when your patrons change their pledges, or if
Or
they
they
stop
cancel.
subscribing,
Yeah.
or if you go to your backer report, it'll say this person's credit card was declined for 10 months. And so in that case, I know who they are because I have the message. The messages are all threaded, so I know who they are, and I could demote them from being able to see that. Or in the case that forum was just, we're scheduling Skype games, so if somebody, if in the case that somebody asked to be in a Skype game but they weren't at that level anymore, I know who they are on Patreon, and it's well, you're not at that level, so sorry.
Yeah.
That's a bonus that you aren't paying for anymore.
Yeah, so there's some management of rewards. You need to. Sometimes backer or creators will, instead of you can upload files to Patreon, but they have limitations, and sometimes it's gotten a lot better in the last few months. But last year it was kind of buggy.
Yeah.
On uploading files, and some people I can't stream this episode of the podcast from the thing, and so sometimes what you'll do is I'll upload it to a cloud service like OneDrive or Google Drive, and then put a link in a Patreon only post. So somebody might be able to save that post and then keep it, and then when they cancel their subscription. So
But I mean, they could have.
That's a minor. They could have downloaded
Yeah.
it themselves. So.
And then you also run the risk of you run the very minor risk that somebody might copy that link and then just paste it publicly somewhere.
Yeah.
But again.
It's not really worth. There's nothing you can do about it, and if it happens, it's pretty easy to fix by just canceling or deleting that file from Google Drive or whatever.
Yeah, there's not really a good way to fight piracy.
I wouldn't. Yeah, and I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's if you're worried about wasted time, that's
Yeah, trying to fight that is wasting time, and it's also
$1 billion industries can't do
Yeah.
it.
I also
not
think
gonna
it's
be-
a pretty small chance that it would happen.
Yeah.
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 There's another question. Yeah. Or we'll let's see. We'll get you first. We'll just work from left to right. Sorry.
Work through the row.
Yeah.
Two questions, actually.
Okay.
First one is, if you're trying to pay with a currency other than U.S. dollars, how does Patreon handle that?
So the question is, if you're trying to pay with a currency other than U.S. dollars,
Yeah.
how does Patreon handle that?
They
It handles
convert.
it automatically.
It handles it. All, they
Yeah.
they have credit card processors that
It
do
converts
that.
it.
And they even take care of VAT tax for people in Europe, and you can even see how much that the Europeans are having to pay in tax to access your stuff, which is absolutely useless for American creators. But like, all right, good job, Europe. Good job.
How much does Patreon take of pledge? You
Patreon takes 5%, but that
of a total amount that you remove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the amount you see on the page is what the creator's actually getting. So if you can reverse engineer it by like adding about 10 to 15%, because if Patreon takes 5 and then the credit card processors take 5 to 10 depending, I guess. I think
there
it's
are two
around 5.
services on Patreon as far
Stripe
as like
and PayPal.
Stripe and PayPal.
Yeah.
And each one charges a different amount.
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top
But
of
yeah,
my
what you
head.
see on the page is what you're going to get. Mine is like every month there's always going to be some declined pledges.
Yeah.
At least in my case.
It doesn't. Yeah. In our case too. The amount you see does not factor in declined pledges.
And you can look at that on your manage patrons. It'll give you a monthly total, and you can
Yeah.
That's actually one of the few places where you can filter it, so you can filter it down to which pledges were declined. And I think they actually give a reason why the pledge was denied sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Like expired credit card or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You had the next question?
Yeah.
Bree.
So, so you guys all use different like web hosting, like you use.
I use YouTube.
Your own site and thing.
Yeah, I switched for. Okay, so
wait,
March.
question?
So
Oh yeah, sorry. What web hosting
Are
services?
there any advantages in using, say, YouTube as opposed to having your own site, and how that factors in?
Sure. I can talk a lot of it because I had a nightmare.
So the question is, we each use different hosting platforms. Is there an advantage to using our respective hosting platforms?
Yeah.
I use YouTube. Thrilling Intent, we all use YouTube because there's a video component to it. I have also heard of audio-only podcasts using YouTube and just throwing up like a nice static image to look at. Personally, I said it before, YouTube has its faults, but I like it because it's very simple and it's well known. You have, you're basically tapping
And
into
it's reliable.
It's, well,
Well, okay. I'll talk about that in more
usually
detail.
reliable.
It's usually reliable.
usually reliable.
I'll talk about that in more detail.
Yeah, but you're also tapping into a community of people that have agreed to all watch things and share it with each other. It's a trusted platform, basically. You're not some it's not a website out there that is like some darknet site that's like, watch my podcast, please. It's not this
Yeah,
weird
I know
creepy
subscribing
place.
to all those darknet podcasts.
You know how it is. Anyway.
That was my high school synthwave
Darknet
band.
podcast. I thought it was Mormon Centaurs.
Well, that was my ska thrash metal
Oh, right.
crossover.
He had a lot of bands.
Anyway, I don't have any experience with services outside of YouTube,
yeah.
I think. But yeah, personally, I just prefer YouTube because it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple.
I have a story.
Oh boy! Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do have
yeah,
a story.
I do have
It's a
story.
very long story.
It is, and it's
painful.
It is painful. So the first thing you think about hosting services is what you're doing, like in general, because if you're doing art or text or like a PDF or anything, just use Patreon because they can handle those files easily. The only real time you really have to worry about that is if you're doing a podcast that's like 20 to 100 megs per episode, or some other it depends how much data you're transferring to your to your
For example, an
clients.
episode of Thrilling Intent can be anywhere between 5 to 15 gigabytes.
Right, but that's
big.
all streamed video.
Yeah.
So
So that would be expensive to use, like
Yeah.
a third-party site. Well,
Yeah.
YouTube just does it.
So Roleplaying Bob Radio for most of its life has been hosted on a shared hosting plan on Bluehost.com, which is like $300 a year annually, obviously annually. And it was okay because we were a small podcast, but we started growing and the service became more and more unreliable because it's a shared hosting plan. You don't even get, they ration your CPU usage, your memory, and they had unlimited storage, but
Quote,
nobody
unquote.
can access it. It doesn't matter how much storage you have. So in March of this year, basically they reduced my rations. I was a Soviet peasant in the gulag and said, "No more bread, comrade. Go out and fight the Nazis." And with a stick. And basically, no one could access the site. It just died. And I panicked for a week. It was totally inaccessible. And so what I did is I switched to a virtual private server on lithiumhosting.com, and I put all the podcasts on an OVH, which has a public cloud storage service. And so I pay like $150 a month now for web hosting, and I use like 3 to 5 terabytes of data a month to upload, for people to download stuff. And it's worth it because it's a fuckload more reliable.
I do have a story too, actually. We have Thrilling Intent is also on iTunes, and we use Podbean. And it's similar pricing. Like
Podbean is a
$99.
specialized podcast host where you get so much storage, but they add a certain amount of storage every month.
Yeah.
And unlimited bandwidth.
Quote unquote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, it's not
Okay.
unlimited. Whenever they say unlimited, they mean a lot. But yeah, it's not unlimited. You will very quickly, for example, we had to upload our entire, they said there was also no upload limit. But whenever we got Podbean, we had to upload our entire backlog of Thrilling Intent, which was some 100 episodes. And I got to about...
this is just the audio version of it, right? Or was it
No, it's video too.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got to about episode 40, and it was like upload limit reached for the month. So if you see a website advertising that it has unlimited upload and download, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does not.
So yeah, what kind of content are you doing?
I haven't put anything up yet.
Okay.
I've got a backlog made piece.
Of actual plays? Okay. Are they just audio? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no, those are going to be long, and so like if I would look at Libsyn or maybe one of the other specialized podcast hosts.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're using Libsyn.
Yeah,
right now.
we're using Libsyn for our panel discussion show, and that's similar to Podbean in that they, depending on the rate that they'll give you, they actually have a monthly upload limit that you can do, but they have unlimited storage space. So we're on a basic plan because it's an hour-long discussion show that we do once a month. So we have like a limit of like 150 megabytes or something like that, and then that resets at the first of the month for every month. And then Libsyn, I think that's like one of the oldest names in specialized
They're
podcasting
scalable
services.
too. Like
Yeah.
you can start with a cheap plan, and then if you get more popular, you can.
And then
pay
they
more to
also
upgrade.
do things like if you want to have a custom domain name, then you can tack that on and just like
You can redirect. It depends on how, like, web hosting, by the way, and website adminning stuff is a black hole of knowledge
That's a
and
couple
time
different panels.
and energy and hope. And it's just where hope goes to die. Like
Yeah.
it's you have to do it, but God, is it fucking annoying.
Yeah. And just to toss another name out there, for whenever you look into getting a host,
Yeah.
I hear Amazon S3 is
well,
pretty
that's
good.
super expensive though.
Is it?
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know
yeah.
that.
because you're basically just getting overflow from Amazon servers that they use for Christmas.
So one more question over there. Yeah.
I actually was just curious. I'm doing like versions of short stories for the company through audiobooks on contract, and they're paying me a small amount. Is it possible to create a Patreon for something I'm also being paid for? Or would that be considered like?
Okay, the question is, I'm doing audiobooks for a company for short stories. Is it also possible to do a Patreon to be paid to do that? You really need to talk to the company.
Yeah, that's
you, I
dicey.
assume you signed a contract with this company, right? Did you sign a contract?
Yes.
Yeah, look at your contract, talk to your employer. Definitely don't do it without their approval, because like that's a good way to be sued.
A lot of companies have exclusivity things saying that as long as you're doing this work, you will work exclusively for us.
Yeah.
But some places will give you, like, it all depends on your contract. Like some companies will allow you to sell the personal stuff that you've made, but some places say that's all our IP now. We own that.
So so it really depends. In general, probably not. If the patrons are getting it from you, if the story's from you, then the company's not making those sales. So like, yeah.
They're releasing them free online. They're not
Okay, well then what are the patrons getting from it by backing from if you're not, what are you offering to the patrons? Like, you're already getting paid for it, so they don't feel, no one feels the need to support your work.
Yeah.
And then they're not getting anything exclusive from it. So what's the motivation? So I would maybe, if you're doing that already though, like maybe look at public domain stories and offer to do fan readings
Yeah.
of that.
And even if you
more stuff on your own.
Yeah, and even if you can't get paid for these stories, it sounds like these are the kinds of things that you'd want to like let people know you've done. Like, even if they're not worth monetary value, they might be worth like reputation. You could be like, hey, I narrated this for a thing, and I got paid for it, because people like to know that you got paid.
There's also the possibility, and again, review your contract, make sure that this is fine. If it's being given away for free, if it's on a monthly schedule, the thing your Patreon could do, which Ross does for his APs, is something like early access. If people really want that right now, they can get it for free later, but they can pay a premium to access it early.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the rewards don't have to make like total financial sense there. Again, because then it's a little bit of column A and column B in terms of like why they're backing. Yeah, they're getting all the benefits if they back at $25 level a month, but it's also because they really support what you're doing. So like you can add a little of that sort of like goodwill into the price. Before we go, one thing also, Patreon has an referral system. So if any of you guys want more advice later on, we get our cards and email us or contact us, and we'd be happy to help you set up and be a referral for us. Everybody wins.
Yay!
But if you want more sunglasses,
please take them.
Please take them. And is this room used for a thing? Okay, it is. There is a thing coming. So thank you all very much.
Everybody.
Go Patreon, go crowdfunding.
Thank you so much for your support on Patreon.
Yes, please come up, take our cards.
Thank you.
Take sunglasses, please.